We're going to take a look at Pythagorean Theorem and trigonometry together. So some questions you have to do both Pythagorean Theorem and trigonometry to solve the question. So go ahead and make your final tap. And here's what a question would look like. If the sine of theta, which is just an angle, is equal to 5/8, find the cosine of theta and tan of theta. So they don't actually tell you the angle. And you could use a calculator to actually find the inverse and find the actual angle and then use the triangle, but I'm going to use both Pythagorean Theorem and trig to do it. Alright, so always draw a triangle would be your first step. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a triangle. Alright, so now I'm going to label this triangle. So theta is what it is. I don't know what this angle is. Label theta, O, A, and H. So where's my P in man? He pees on H. Find the angle. He doesn't pee on his legs. Find the angle, go jump over the P, and that's O, and whatever's left over is A. So let's go ahead and label, or write the formula actually, using Sohcahtoa. The listening check, color in Sohcahtoa. So sine of theta is opposite, which is 5. So I'm going to write that out. Sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse, right? So sine of theta is 5/8, which means that 5 is opposite and the 8 is hypotenuse. It has to be because that's what the formula says. Alright, so now I'm going to use that information. So number 4, write the numbers in the triangle. I'm going to use that information to fill in the numbers in the triangle that I now know. So opposite is 5 and then hypotenuse is 8. I'm going to use Pythagorean Theorem to find out that last one. So number 5, find the missing side using Pythagorean Theorem. Alright, now to do this, so that I don't confuse myself, I'm going to redraw my triangle. This is a listening check, color in Pythagorean Theorem. Alright, so exact same triangle. So it's 5, 8, and I need to find this last side. So what do I use? Well, label A, B, C, like I would Pythagorean Theorem. So I'm going to refresh your mind of Pythagorean Theorem real quick. Label A, B, and C. C is always what you P on, or C is the hypotenuse. A and B doesn't matter. So that's C, A and B doesn't matter. So you just pick A and B. Alright, then write down A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So let's go ahead and do that. And then you just fill in the numbers. So A squared is 5 squared plus B squared, I don't know. C squared is 8 squared. Alright, then the final step is solve for the variable. So I'm going to draw my river. And I'm going to cross the other side. This 5 squared is going to go to the other side. It's going to be minus 5 squared. So I'm going to have B squared equals 8 squared minus 5 squared. And then to get rid of that squared, I square root both sides. So B squared equals the square root of 8 squared minus 5 squared. So B squared is, what's 8 squared? 64. 5 squared is 25. So minus 64 minus 25. 64 minus 25 is 39. So radical 39 is what I have, and if I put that in the calculator, I get a decimal. So I'm going to leave it as radical 39. So write down radical 39 where B is now, and you're going to do that on your original triangle as well. So now that I have the third side, the rest of it's really easy. Step 6 is now that all sides are found, use Sohcahtoa to answer your question. So I wanted to find cosine. So cosine theta equals, and cosine is A over H. So A is radical 39, H is 8. So cosine theta is radical 39 over 8. And I know you can't see, but you can hear me. So cosine theta is radical 39 over 8. That's what you're writing. You want us to do the same thing for tan. Tan theta is opposite. So tan theta equals opposite, which is 5, over adjacent, which is 39, radical 39. So tan theta is 5 over radical 39. And because you can't leave the answer as a radical on the bottom, I'm going to punch it in the calculator and leave it as a decimal because I don't feel like rationalizing it. But we did do a video on rationalizing it, so you can multiply top and bottom by radical 39 and it'll get rid of the radical for you if you want to leave it in exact form. Let's take a look at one more example. So let's say if you had cosine theta is 4 over 5, what's sine theta and what's tan theta? So same exact steps, always draw a triangle. This is a listening check. Put a box around example 2. Let's label what we got so we know it's a right triangle, and then theta is right there, and then we're going to label that. So we need Sohcahtoa to label that. So O, A, and H. So there's my P man. He P's on H. O is across from the angle, jumping over the P. That's O, and A is what's left over. So I'm going to write out Sohcahtoa so I can figure out what cosine of theta is. And cosine, because that's what we're given, cosine is A over H. That means A, it has to be written as A over H. So A is 4, and H has to be the bottom, which is 5. So now label that. A is 4, H is 5. So now we're going to use Pythagorean Theorem to find what O is, the final side. So I'm going to redraw it again so I don't confuse myself. And Pythagorean Theorem is ABC, and C is always across from my P man, or is H. So as long as that's C, A and B doesn't matter. And then what's Pythagorean Theorem? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So A squared plus B squared, which is 4 squared, equals 8C squared, which is 5 squared. Take the 4 squared to the other side. Don't forget to change. That's going to be negative 4 squared. I'm just going to rewrite it out. So A squared is 5 squared minus 4 squared. Get rid of the squared by square rooting. So A is the square root of 5 squared minus 4 squared. Then go ahead and square it. So 5 squared is 25. 4 squared is 16. That gives you 9. And I can make a book, right? Because 9 breaks down to 3 and 3. And that will give me a book of 3. So if I write it out as 3 times 3, take the 3 outside, and there's nothing left inside, so it simplifies to 3. So A is 3. Fill it in on the top triangle as well. And then now use Sohcahtoa again to find what your question was asking. So sine of theta is, this is a listening check, color in both the answers that I'm about to write in. Opposite over hypotenuse. So go find opposite, 3, over hypotenuse, which is 5. Tan of theta is opposite over adjacent. So what's opposite? Opposite is 3. And what's adjacent? 4. And that's it. Again, you could use a calculator to find the angle, then use Sohcahtoa to find it. But this way, you got to review on Pythagorean Theorem. Let's practice.